Ever since we started grade school, we've all been told that we need a big, strong government to look after us. And that, sure, it may need fixing here and there, but generally today's government size is about right. We disagree. We think that government is a parasite, living off what you and I earn and using our money to do unpleasant things to us. From being a nation of self-reliant go-getters, America is fast becoming a country of government junkies. We think an alternative exists, one that puts you back in charge of your own life and destiny. We call it the freedom alternative.
Here we go. Okay. Da, 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 da.
Welcome back, everybody. This is the Freedom Alternative, and we welcome you especially because this is our 100th successive weekly edition. I'm Jim Davies, and
I'm Peter
who are you?
Verderosa. I'm incognito.
You certainly are.
I figured that if the candidates can be that ridiculous, so can I, folks.
Take it off, take it off. Peter, welcome back. It's a few weeks since you've been with us.
More than a
It's
few,
a long
yes.
time.
I left at edition number 76, and here I am at the 100th, and I'm happy to be here. I really am.
This program is dedicated to the idea of personal, individual freedom from government and other agencies that prevent us enjoying that. And we've had one heck of a good time.
Oh, I should say, and here's to more.
Freedom.
Freedom.
Now today, folks, in celebration of our 100th anniversary, we're going to have a very special show for you. The outlook for freedom is not all that bleak. Unfortunately, it has to be restored by political action. I don't like politics, nor do you, I know.
Nor do I.
But there it is, there's no alternative. And today we're going to welcome no less than 4 guests to the show, one after the other, all of whom are running for local office in Connecticut under the Libertarian ticket, trying to restore, do their bit to restore personal freedom. We'll meet them in a moment.
Right.
First of all, Peter, I want to just rehearse and remember some of the shows, the great shows that we've had in the last 100 weeks. And just nearly 2 years ago, we kicked off with showing our viewers, I don't know if you were with us then, but we showed our viewers that the burden of taxation is far greater than most people realize. We took a can of beer,
That's right.
we analyzed its price,
6-pack
of beer, and found that 2/3 of the cost of that beer is going straight to the government's hands.
Exactly.
That's outrageous.
And in that edition, and we could recap today by pointing out to the viewers that a bottle of spirits is more than 62% tax.
62%.
At wholesale.
We showed in our very next show, the third one of all, how some people are resisting taxation even to the point of being willing to be put in jail.
That's right.
For their conscience sake. We went on to take one of the government's favorite programs, Social Security so-called, and we showed that if that were scrapped and replaced by a free market in old age pension insurance, life insurance, you could get a better deal for 4 times less cost.
You would, at 65, be 4 times richer.
Yeah, that's right. And this is the government's, perhaps the government's favorite program of all. And we went on to deal with education and other of their favorite activities and showed that you can do a better job than the government can by staying home and educating your own kids.
Correct.
What were some of your favorite shows, Peter?
Well, I particularly like to go out in the field. I have a lot of fun talking to people. I'm a people person, as you know. And I remember the time we went out on the drug survey. And the response that we got from the average person on the street was much to my surprise, the equivalent of a tremendous lack of knowledge on the part of all people with regard to drugs.
We think the war on drugs is really a war on liberty, and people really don't understand what's happening.
And as our presidential candidate, Andre Maru, explains, can never be won by throwing more money and more DEA officials at it.
Absolutely right.
And then another one that comes to mind, of course, is the October 5th anti-tax rally in Hartford.
1990, was it not?
1991.
All right.
Right.
October 5th, 91, you're right.
That's right.
Yeah.
And in spite of what the media said to try and downplay it, there were indeed 65,000 plus people there.
Yep.
And now the whole thing seems to have quieted down and the feist has been taken out of a lot of people.
I think we shall hear from some of our guests today that it's not gone away.
Good. I'm looking forward to it.
In fact, There was another, what we call a remote program we did that you mentioned earlier. In Enfield, do you remember that?
That's correct. Andrew Melichinsky was the man who was involved in a case where a federal judge issued an order that he and his wife be evicted from their home in Enfield, Connecticut, on the basis of, well, it's a rather involved thing to explain, but it has to do with the IRS and the fact that they are really not a tax gathering agency so much as they are the Ministry of the Maintenance of Intimidation and Fear.
That's well put. No trial for Andrew?
That's right.
No jury?
That's right.
Just lost his house.
And he's lost everything, really,
That's
and they're
right.
still after more. The little bit that he has, they're determined to take his underwear and socks.
That's right, pretty well.
Yeah.
Look, we must turn quickly, I think, to the first of our guests. And you're going to interview him, and you're going to wave your magic electronic wand.
I certainly am. I have it right here.
I'm going to disappear.
I'm ready.
I'm going to disappear. And
You're
be
ready for
replaced
this
by our
now?
first
Because
guest.
I don't know where you may end up.
Oh, my.
I don't know if I know
Don't
the
let it
magicals
hurt.
to get you back, but I'll try, okay? And it worked. It's amazing. Rich Loomis, it's good to have you here.
Well, it's good to be here.
Yeah. You are running in the state of Connecticut for the State House in the 60th District, correct?
That's right.
And the 60th District, for those who aren't aware, especially viewers of this program up in that area, encompasses...
All of Windsor Locks and a gerrymandered portion of Enfield.
Okay. Now, you are on the ballot there against how many opponents?
Actually, there are 3 other opponents.
3 other
A
opponents?
Democrat, a Republican, and an Connecticut Party candidate.
Okay. Now, what basically makes you different?
What makes me different is I'm the only one that's really for reducing government. The other candidates put a lot of rhetoric towards it and say a lot of things, but they don't understand that government is really there growing and growing and growing, and they're the normal type candidates that are trying to get government to do everything for everybody, and that's not the function of government.
Now, your background is what? You're in engineering?
I'm an engineer, building construction, small private business.
Of course, your wife, Jan, is somebody who was in one of the very first episodes, the beginning episodes of the Freedom Alternative with regard to homeschooling, and that is what she does.
No, that's right, and actually education is a big thing for both of us. We're both extremely interested in education. Education is a big problem in our state and in our country.
What's your stand with regard to education?
We've got to get choice in education. Right now, we have a system by where a bureaucracy tells everybody where the children will go, what they will do. We've got to get the parents back into the program. If you go in terms of dollars, since 1950 to today, the cost of schooling has increased 300% in real dollar terms, and yet the education level's gone down. The number of administrators has gone way up. We have twice as many personnel in school systems today as we did in 1950, but only half of those personnel are actually teaching.
So should there be, in your view, a voucher system, or should schools be privatized and the allowance made for teaching at home?
Actually, I would like to see a voucher system as a step towards privatizing all education.
I see. And then you'd like to see it go beyond that.
Oh yes, oh yes. I think ultimately we've got to get the state completely out of the education system.
How do libertarian views to you apply on a local level? Can you give us some examples?
There are all kinds of things that can be privatized on a local level. If you get down to the town, most towns have trash collection. They have all kinds of little government services that really is not a function of government. They're doing things because people have asked for things. But the people that have asked for them want them for free, so the town taxes everybody to provide it. That's not right. That's not what government's supposed to be there for. Government's supposed to be there to protect us from other individuals, from other governments.
Well, some might be reacting to that statement in a negative way right now watching this program. But how would you explain what their liability would be in terms of dollars if your plan could be implemented? How would it be easier for them?
It would be easier, I don't know if easier is the right way to say it.
Easier on the pocketbook.
It would be better for everybody if we only had people paying for the services they wanted. You're not paying for everybody else's services.
I see.
When it comes to trash collection, right now, all your tax dollars, for instance, in Enfield, tax dollars are going for trash collection. People that use that trash collection are paying for it. People that don't use it are paying for it. People that have 10 barrels of trash a week are paying for it, the same as somebody who's got 1 barrel a week.
Mm-hmm.
In a private system, such as what my father has up in East Granby, you pay by the number of barrels that you want per week. So if you want 3 barrels, you pay for 3 barrels of trash. If you only need 1 barrel, you pay for 1 barrel of trash. And in that private system, they have one man on one truck who goes out there and it automatically picks up the barrel, dumps it in the truck, and puts it back on the curb. In Enfield, we have 3 and sometimes 4 people on every truck going around picking up the trash. And it's just not a reasonable way to do it. It's not an economically reasonable way to do it.
So, as you see it, more libertarians, you feel, should get involved at the local level, because that's really the way to expedite change.
Oh,
and,
yes. Oh, yes.
And put it together nationally, ultimately.
Ultimately, yes. The problem that you have on the town-by-town basis is that so many things are state mandated. So I think we really have to run a lot of people for the state offices and get a lot of the other things that are state mandated out.
Great. Well, we hope that more people like yourself will step forward in the future and run for office on a local level.
Oh, I'm sure they will. Yeah. I know that this year a lot of people put efforts into other areas, such as getting our presidential candidate on the ballot.
Right.
And that's why we don't have more candidates this year. But we
Rich,
will in the future.
Best of luck to you.
Well, thank you very much.
And thanks for being here.
Well,
I'm going to use my magic wand again, and we're going to get both you and I to disappear if it works correctly.
Okay.
Alakazam.
Steve Mendelsohn, welcome back.
Hi.
You are running for office in the New Britain area. What office is that?
I'm running for the 26th State House District, which encompasses, it's also a gerrymandered part in the north-central part of the city, which is a heavily Polish-American district.
Oh, yes. And you've printed up here a flyer. To whom have you been handing this flyer, by and large?
I've hit about 800 doorbells so far. I plan to hit another, perhaps another 800 more, and mostly to people in single-family homes, 2-family homes, 3-plexes, where I know there's going to be a high voter turnout.
You're earning votes the old-fashioned way. You're
earning them, yeah.
Okay. Well, let me have a look at this and take you
Yeah.
through some of the high points here. The very first thing you put on your flyer is something you don't often see, folks, in the program of a candidate: the abolition of the insanity defense. What's all that about?
Well, I happen to live in a very high crime area. A lot of the district has a problem with crime, and what I believe in is, and what a lot of the libertarians believe in, is that people must be held fully responsible for their actions when they violate the rights of others. Murderers, rapists, arsonists have to be held fully accountable, and right now they're not. And also people like myself who are psychiatric survivors, and I've been on this show quite a few times before talking about that, are patronized by this.
Okay. Well, that's fine. Do you not think, though, that some people are not responsible for their actions? You would deny that?
Again, I think that's very patronizing to cast people out and say that they're really legal non-persons. I think we have to treat everybody as a competent and responsible adult.
Extremely interesting. Let me pass on quickly to another. You, too, like Rich Loomis before you, favor a major, that's your phrase, major downsizing of state government, and you give some examples here. One of them I see is the Department of Economic Development. What does that department do, or what it's supposed to do, and why would you eliminate it?
Well, let me say that first that I will want to downsize state government so we can repeal the state income tax.
Aha.
It's the only way we can do it without raising other taxes through the roof the way the Republicans want to do.
Okay.
But economic development is one of the worst agencies because it does nothing. All it does is take money out of the hands of hardworking taxpayers and small businesses, and then give give a middleman's cut to the bureaucracy, and then put a few of the dollars back in the hands of politically preferred big business. The best economic development plan will be a radical downsizing of government and the bureaucracy so that the economy could grow, so that people could spend their money on small business, which is the great engine of job growth in the economy.
People spending their own money as they want to spend it.
We know how to spend our money better than those guys in government know how to do it for
Amen
us.
to that. Let me pick out quickly, as our time is short, another couple of items. Choice in health care, repeal state health insurance mandates. This strikes me, one could be accuse you of cynicism here. It's all very well offering choice in health care, but what about those who can't afford to pay for it?
Well, right now it's precisely because of all these state mandates, licensure laws, prescription laws, that people can't make their own choices. The government has forced the price of health care through the roof. If we force doctors to compete against each other in a free market, if people had the right to self-medication, if they wanted to take Tagemet for their ulcer, then they can go to buy it over the counter instead of having to get a prescription from a doctor for it. It would be a lot cheaper. That's why we have all this calls for socialized medicine, which is only going to make the situation worse. But at least right now, people who are calling for health care for all seem to be the only ones out there who seem to want change from the current system. The problem is we already have socialized medicine, and it's a failure.
It is indeed. In fact, something like a quarter of the state's budget goes on health care, does it not?
For health care, psychiatric
Yeah.
care, which is another issue I'm addressing.
Let me quickly pick up one more item. We've got time for one more item. Fully informed jury amendment requiring judges to inform jurors of their common law right of jury nullification. This sounds a bit obscure and scholastic. What's this all about?
Well, let me say that in my one of the people who live in my district is the Laflamme family, and I know people are probably quite familiar with the case of Megan Marie, who was denied her Seventh Amendment right to a jury trial. Certainly the right of a child to have loving parents is worth more than $20, as said in the Constitution. If we had a fully informed jury of 6 or 12 people who had the right to judge the justice of the law as well as the facts of the case, I'm sure they would not have voted the same way as Judge John T. Downey.
Oh, I see. You're giving more liberty, if you will, to juries to decide the whole case and not just the narrow issues of whether John Smith did that or not. That kind of thing.
If there were a law in the books requiring the death penalty for drinking water, would you support the idea that you have to follow the law as given?
Gotcha. And you would say that it's important that the jury should have the right to throw such laws out for those cases?
Yeah, that's the only way we can make our laws consistent with the principles of freedom and responsibility.
I would say, Steve, that you've got more bright ideas in this one sheet of paper than all your opponents put together. I wish you a whole lot of luck.
And I also support ending the nursing home subsidies and trying to help people with disabilities and seniors live independently, which is another key issue in my campaign.
You've got a lot of good ideas, and thank you very much for joining us.
Okay.
I see that don't go yet, because I'm going to make you go away with this.
Right.
Are you ready, folks? Wow.
Good heavens. I was in the bathroom and suddenly I'm here. Lou. Lou Klein. This is the way we see you on the street, with this T-shirt on, which has been explained. It's been explained to us in various articles that this is among some of your low-budget accoutrements, shall we say, in your attempt to take the chair of state senator in Connecticut, 132nd district.
32nd.
32nd district. I'm sorry. I often do that. What area does that encompass?
It's the whole center part of the state. There are 10 towns represented. Total towns, Brookfield, Bridgewater, Roxbury, Woodbury, Southbury, 90,000 people.
Okay.
33,000 voters, hopefully.
Now, you are one of these people who has been out there on a one-to-one basis. You've been introducing yourself. The shirt is something that makes people very inquisitive, and they've come up to you and asked you, what's that all about?
Yes, who is that kook?
And immediately you go into an explanation, a brief explanation. You don't. What is the approach?
I've learned that I do not force myself on anybody. If somebody wants to ask me a question, I'll be happy to answer. But I'll only answer one question at a time. This is the third time I'm running for public office, and I've made some serious mistakes the prior times. I only want to talk to people that want to talk to me. I'm not going to force myself on anybody. And if somebody wants to ask me a question, I'll be happy to spend as much time as they want.
That means you're kind of playing on the idea that people are truly fed up, and they are looking for an alternative.
The voters are so angry with the income tax. I mean, 65,000 of us were in Hartford on October 5th.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, in the next day or two after that event, you were on the front page of
Danbury News Times.
Danbury News
waving
Times.
my broom, sweep clean,
right.
every incumbent out. Out with all the incumbents.
Well, I tell you, I love your energy, and I love your ideas. The program loves your ideas. What are some of them? Talk about what you think is the main issue.
Main issue is slavery of the taxpayer.
How so?
Well, this is what we are. We're the slaves to the government. We are taxed for other people's use of our money. I mean, the system is outrageous.
But I've often heard it said in my travels, especially when the income tax issue was at its peak, right? Especially certain groups in our society. I noticed to a great degree with the senior citizens, and to a great degree with students. They have fears, and their answer to me was, well, how are you going to balance the budget? Now, how would you approach taking away that fear from them and getting them to feel happier about your ideas?
My predecessors, the two other fellows that are on the ballot, and the fellow after me, the main purpose is that individuals should be free to pay for the services they choose to use, whatever the service. Garbage
Are you
collection?
saying that this overall would lower the cost to every citizen?
Absolutely,
In the long run?
And most of the tax money is totally wasted. Wasted. Everything is wasted.
So basically, it's short-term thinking versus long-term thinking.
Well, the whole system has come to a crashing halt. What we have is socialism. Take from those who have and distribute to those who need and want, out of the goodness of our hearts, to help those who are less fortunate. And the system does not work. Nobody likes to be robbed.
I notice on one of your flyers,
Yeah.
it says right up front, under one of the pictures, one of them a formal one of them one of you with this wonderful shirt on out on the street doing your thing. It says, you, meaning you, Lou Klein, I discriminate without prejudice.
Without prejudice.
Explain that.
Well, prejudice means to prejudge somebody. We have laws that are written that prejudge somebody on the basis of their sex, on the basis of their age, on the basis of their color. The laws include making special interests of these people. They are prejudged, which is outrageous. None of us picked our parents. We didn't pick our date of birth.
One major issue
What's that?
that's always described in articles about you is the fact that you really, really want to do everything you can to see education privatized.
Well, that's the major thing. That's what has destroyed the American family.
Lots of
is
people
government
can't.
education.
Lots of people can't because they're stuck in a paradigm. They can't really grasp that concept because they're so used to, since the middle 1800s, schools being
very late
nationalized.
1800s. Very late 1800s. Only
Now,
about 100 years.
my question to you, and our time is growing short, let the people understand. What does this mean to the underprivileged kid, the one who can't afford now to go to schools if they were privatized?
Parents, mothers and fathers of traditional families will spend the money on the first priority item. If that means milk and bread on the table, they'll spend it on that. If it means education, they'll spend it on education. Individuals will choose to spend their money where they want to and not spend it, not let the government steal it from them and spend it where the government wants to spend it.
Okay.
The
Boy.
system stinks.
You explain it with a fervor, Lou. It's
Well,
good
it's
to
the
have you
truth.
here. You get me
It's the
fired up. But listen, thanks for coming.
My
We wish you the
pleasure.
best of luck. Lou Klein, 32nd Senatorial District, State of Connecticut.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, let me see who I can get here now. Ready? Abracadabra.
Well, we welcome as our fourth and final guest, Richard Bucciarelli from Norwalk. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on the show. And you're running for public office in the 25th Connecticut Senate District, is that right?
That's right. That includes all of Norwalk and about 2/3 of Darien. That's kind of an addition with the redistricting.
Okay, so it's been moved around with this gerrymandering as well for you too, is it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, fine. And you too have produced a flyer that you're taking out and handing out. I think you run a small store, do you not, in Norwalk? And you're
That's
handing across the
correct.
counter?
I'm handing across the counter, and I have 1,500 flyers out to the public already. And
Wow.
one of my major people I hand it to, I go right to the opposition, hand it to them. In fact, Senator Lieberman has one, and the
Oh, yeah?
Secretary of State,
All right.
Mr. Blumenthal does, and all the opposition candidates, and a lot of the Democratic and
Okay.
Republican candidates.
Let me ask you about what it says, because your very first point is that you want to have the state income tax repealed.
That is correct.
No argument about that.
No argument about that. First order of business.
How do your opponents stand on that issue?
Well, my Democratic party is endorsed by a Connecticut party. He's for it. That's Michael McCabe.
He wants to retain the state income tax?
He wants to retain it.
What
correct.
is his name now?
Michael McCabe.
I hope nobody votes for him. Come
Well,
on. Who's the
that's
other one?
correct. Also, the incumbent, Robert Gennario, he did vote against the income tax.
Mm-hmm.
However, they kind of had to kick him in the shins because he almost voted the other way.
Okay.
His party had to convince him, that
Yeah.
you had better voted against it. Had they not done that, he would have voted for it, so he's very weak on the issue. Both, by the way, are attorneys, and that we cover later on.
Yeah. And it is, in fact, right here in your flyer that you want to see something happen to these folk who voted for this odious state income tax. What is that?
Well, we must vote out all of those people who voted for the tax and any new candidates that are pro-tax. Now, in our store, on the headquarters, 140 Main Street, Norwalk, you can pick up a copy of that list. However, not in that list is the new pro-tax candidates, and those you'll have to review and
Yeah,
be
we're
sure you
gonna
vote
do
them
those.
out.
Sure.
Yes.
But the main thing, folks, in this is, of course, across the state, not just in Dick's area, is to vote out those who voted for the state income tax. You can pick up a copy at 140 Main Street, Norwalk.
140 Main Street.
Or you can call 438-5224. Jim Davies, that's me. I'll be happy to send you such a list in the mail. Vote them out. Vote the bums out, right?
Vote the bums out. Loud them out. Get them out.
Point 2 on your flyer, impeach Lowell Weicker. These words run easily off my tongue. Expand on it a little bit, will you?
Well, I think your problem is going to be if you get even an anti-tax legislature up there. Lowell Weicker will throw all kinds of blocks in. He used every coercive method not to have that tax repealed.
Yeah,
many, in my judgment, which would be unlawful, because there is no provision for taxing in a state constitution, and this is a equity or consensual type law. It must have the consent of the people, and it surely does not.
Okay. Let me move quickly to one other very interesting point. You believe that attorneys should not be serving in the State House or the State Senate. Why?
This is correct. See, Statute 51-85 makes them commissioners of the Superior Court, which is the judicial branch of the government, okay? And further, Article 2nd and 18 states that...
That's of the state constitution,
Of the
right?
state constitution,
Yeah.
that's correct. Provides separate magistracy of the judicial, executive, and legislative branches.
Kind of separation of powers.
Separation of powers, okay? And Article 3rd, Section 11 provides that no member of the state legislature should have an appointed position in the judicial.
Okay.
So therefore, it makes them unlawful as legislators.
You're saying that any attorney, then, who is an officer of the court and also a member of the State House is basically violating the law?
Absolutely, they're violating law.
This is outstanding that you should bring this to public notice.
Well,
how many of them are there?
There are 45 attorney legislators. There are 13 in the state Senate.
Yeah.
There are 32 in the House.
Thank you very much, Dick, for coming and for bringing this point particularly to our audience's attention. We wish you the very best of luck. Thanks for coming.
Okay, thank you.
One more wave of the wand, and Peter will be back.
So for those of you who live in the Windsor-Locks-Enfield area, the New Britain area, the southern Litchfield County area, and the Norwalk-Darien area, you're lucky people. Unlike those in the rest of Connecticut, you have a very special choice. Vote the Libertarian line. Jim?
Amen to that. I noticed 7 or 8 things that our guests told us today, and that they're all agreed upon. First of all, repeal the odious state income tax. Amen to that. Impeach Mr. Weicker, or otherwise get rid of Governor Weicker. Third, downsize government in all possible respects, especially downsize it and get it out of education, that great destroyer of American families. Fourth, terminate socialized medicine. One of our guests said that is what we have, and it has failed. Fifth, allow people to choose and buy and pay for whatever services and goods they want to spend their money on. Sixth, allow juries to stand in judgment over the government's laws and not just over the facts of the specific case they may be looking at. And seventh, to exclude attorneys from the state's government, as the law, that is the Connecticut Constitution, provides. Peter, thanks so much for joining us on this great celebration of our 100th edition.
My pleasure.
Want to see you back soon now?
You bet.
And join us, folks, next week when we shall have as our guest Avery Grayson. He's running as a Libertarian for the U.S. Senate. You'll find him, too, different from all the other politicians. Until then, goodbye.
Be safe and be free.